Next, we have Ms. Lantsman. Ms. Lantsman, the floor is yours. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm going to actually stay on this because I appreciate the conversation we're having, and I think that it'll inform the study on the supply chain crunch. But I'd ask you, Mr. Kingston, we're now you agree that we are infusing the electric vehicle market with incentives at the manufacturer's level, at the consumer level, at the infrastructure level. Can you talk a little bit about what the companies that you represent are actually doing to push adoption and sales on their own? And not to mention that we, in most provinces, particularly the one that we happen to be sitting in, incentivizes or frankly pumps money into electricity at the tune of $7 billion. So at every point there is tax money infused into this. Can you talk a little bit about why this, frankly, what you think the industry should do to get people to adopt this without the government help?
Thank you. The single most important thing that industry is doing right now, and my members in particular, is bringing larger vehicles to market that are electrified. Canadians and North Americans love SUVs and pickup trucks. And you're seeing Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis investing over $100 billion US into electrification, with a huge amount of that dedicated to bringing vehicles like the Silverado, like the Ford F-150, like the Dodge Ram into the market in an electrified version. 80% of sales in Canada are of SUVs and pickup trucks. So that to me is a game changer. As those vehicles come into market, you're going to be accessing a whole new segment of the Canadian consumer that wants to have a pickup truck and currently can't buy an electrified version right now. So I think that is extremely important. I'd also note that some manufacturers are also building out their own charging infrastructure, General Motors in particular.
Mr. Kingston, can you talk about if you've asked the government for any additional incentives at either the manufacturers, the consumer, or the infrastructure? And can you talk about what those are?
Yes, when it comes to consumer incentives, we've asked for a larger federal incentive. Currently, $5,000 is provided. But the challenge with the larger vehicles that are coming to market, like a pickup truck, they have a large battery inside them. And what that means is the cost is higher right now. We do expect battery technology to advance. The price will come down. But to give a consumer a pickup truck with the range that they demand, 300, 400, 500 kilometers of range, that means a bigger battery and a bigger expense. And a $5,000 incentive, when you think, the median household income in this country is about $60,000. $5,000 is not going to be enough to help all Canadian households make the switch to electric. So we've asked for a much bigger consumer incentive if the government wishes to achieve its sales targets.
And anything on the infrastructure incentive? Or I shouldn't say incentive, but at the cash that goes towards building additional infrastructure. You mentioned in your comments that we are not even close, as you put it.
Yes, so we've asked a couple of things. First of all, we'd like the federal government to have a stronger coordinating role with provinces and utilities to actually figure out where we need infrastructure and how to prioritize the spend. We saw the 50,000 commitment, but we don't have a detailed plan. If you look at other jurisdictions that are doing this, they put out annual reports with detailed right down to a postal code level of what infrastructure is going to be required, what the energy generation demands will be, and what grid capacity is needed. We're not doing that in Canada. So that's the first ask. Secondly, we just need a more ambitious target. As I said previously, 50,000 charges is not going to cut it. So they have to invest more and build more charging infrastructure. I just want to make one final note. We do not expect that this is all going to be on the public sector. Of course, as more ZEVs become available on the road, the overall market will grow and there will be a strong private sector imperative to build charging infrastructure. But right now, of the total vehicle market, the total vehicle fleet on the road, only 0.2% of those vehicles are electrified. So that's why you need the government to play a role to make this investment happen now. And as Dave Adams said, to overbuild now. And then eventually, as the ZEBS fleet increases, you'll see a lot of private sector capital flowing into that space.
Can you speak to Can you speak to in terms of I hear where you are on the sales mandate and the fact that it's certainly it's certainly not it's not something that necessarily works. But can you speak to any of the conversations that you've already had with government on my colleague Mr. Badaway's point earlier on getting these things into dealerships and into lots and having the supply for those who want to adopt this ready and so they are able to purchase them?
15-second response, please.
Automakers are moving extremely quickly right now with the investments that I've outlined to increase the number of EVs coming into the market. So that is happening immediately. We have to resolve these supply chain challenges, the semiconductor issue in particular. Regulation's not going to do it. We've got to resolve those issues and support automakers as they go on this journey to electrification.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kingston, and thank you very much, Ms. Lantsman.